Good morning, everyone. This is Dale Cook. I'm a member of the board of directors on the NCRO and also a member of the Aging Information Subcommittee who sponsors these events. So today we're going to be talking about what's called the Survivor's Guide. And there's two versions of that. And our speaker today is John Kaiser. He's a member of our board and was really the driving force on getting this done. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John because he's going to explain a whole lot of things to you. So with that, turn it over to John.
Thank you, Dale. Good morning. Thank you for tuning in today. It'll be my pleasure to spend some time with you discussing the Survivor Guide. This document's been available on the NCRO's website, so you can access it there. Therefore, you don't really need to take notes, but you can jot down or input questions as I go through the material, as Dale mentioned. We'll respond to questions at the end of the presentation. I'll not try to read back to you the entire document, just to provide highlights behind the various bullets. I don't want to put you to sleep. Hell, it put me to sleep when I was rehearsing. So let's go to the first slide and why the Survivor Guide was developed. For some history, in early 2020, I was trying to help the surviving spouse of a close friend who had died suddenly. His wife was struggling with all the different facets of the FCA benefit programs, how and what to do essentially. This prompted me to write this guide with the technical help of some of other board members. It's a guide specifically for FCA retirees, spouses, and their survivors and beneficiaries. It provides an understanding of the requirements and actions that need to occur with FCA when a retiree or spouse passes. It's kind of become a go-to document. When we get questions, we refer them to the document because it generally can answer any question in regard to this subject. We published it first in August of 2020. The Aging Information Subcommittee of the Insurance Committee, though, felt it'd be a worthwhile presentation for you today. So here I am presenting it to you. As you can imagine or have experienced at the time of a loss of a family member, it can be confusing and difficult to know or understand what needs to be communicated between you and FCA, Benefit Connect, Merrill Lynch, or an insurance carrier, if in the case where your pension was annuitized. Most retirees have a general knowledge of their benefits, but quite often either a spouse or other family members struggle to understand what to do next. We cannot provide legal advice, but if you have questions after reading the guide, you can consult Benefit Connect. Also, you still have if you still have benefit related questions, the insurance committee can also help answer your questions if you contact them, as Dale mentioned. It's very important, though, that the retiree, spouse, survivors, and beneficiaries have access to this document. If you haven't already, read it soon to better understand the information that's available. This guide is regarding FCA benefits. However, there's a family guide that was also published at the time and will be discussed today. It's a very short guide. It's a general guide for all families to ensure important information is available to your survivors, as well as recommend actions at the time of death. So it's a guide that you could actually pass out to anyone. The guide was originally distributed by U.S. Mail, August of 2020, as I mentioned. It's since been updated to delete WageWorks because we got via benefits accounts as the administrators now for our healthcare accounts. We also added wording regarding income tax consequences for beneficiaries and estates, and that's because some people have before and after tax monies. We plan to remail the guide to all members via U.S. Mail and email very shortly. So you're going to get a hard copy of this in the mail. And because it's long, it's a lot to print. And we think it's money well spent to mail it to you. We recommend this guide be kept for reference. You should keep it with your other important information like wills, trusts for referencing by surviving family members or future caregivers. You should provide family members with an online or printed copy if possible. So if you can email it or however you want to do it, but make that available to them. Important point, the NCRO is not notified by FCA if someone dies, and the NCRO does not notify FCA. It's your responsibility. The guide does provide complete instructions, including contact information. So while I won't read that, it's in the guide. The guide does detail actions for several life events. And I will cover the following life-altering changes. First, retiree passes with a surviving spouse. Second, the spouse of the retiree dies and the retiree is still alive. Third, the retiree dies with no surviving spouse, maybe never had one, but no surviving spouse. And then number 4, both retiree and the spouse pass. So on this next slide, I'd like to go through a definition of the terms I'm going to be using. First, there's a pension plan, which of course we're all familiar with, and includes contributory and non-contributor funding. The document itself has a fuller description of these pensions. Annuitized pensions. Pension benefits of some retirees and spouses have been annuitized with a theme. And Prudential or maybe even other insurance companies. So now your pension's coming through you from one of these because it was annuitized. We'll discuss that. Healthcare retirement account, also referred to as HRA. That's a tax-free healthcare reimbursement account for eligible retirees and spouses. It's funded annually in January. Current amounts are at $1,975 for eligible retirees and up to $1,750 for eligible spouses. The amounts are based on a retiree's age and service at retirement. So if you retired early and don't have full credit, you might be getting less than that, but generally that's the amount that everyone's receiving. Claims for reimbursement of eligible health care expenses of the retiree and eligible spouse are filed with Via Benefits accounts. I won't get into detail of any filing or any of that, but make you aware of that account. Next is a Salary Employee Savings Plan, abbreviated SESP. The Salary Employee Savings Plan contains assets purchased with employee pre-tax savings, which is your 401k, or employee after tax. There was an ability to fund it after tax, and company contributions where they did matching, and the earnings on those plan assets. Now, these assets are held and administered by Merrill Lynch. Next, there's a retirement healthcare account. Retirement healthcare account is a healthcare savings plan. Assets are held and administered by Merrill Lynch. Distributions from the plan are solely for the tax-free reimbursement of eligible healthcare expenses of retirees, eligible spouses, and surviving spouses. Claims for such expenses are processed by Via Benefits accounts. Not every retiree has an RHC at Merrill Lynch, or maybe it has been depleted. You've already used those funds. Next, healthcare coverage. Eligible retirees and eligible spouses and surviving spouses under age 65 are covered by an FCA healthcare plan. So if you're over 65, you're no longer covered, but if you're under 65, you are. Optional group life insurance. Certain retirees and spouses and surviving spouses have elected to purchase term life insurance benefits under this plan. Premiums are often paid via deductions from your pension check. Death benefits are paid to designated beneficiaries or to the deceased estate. In terms of contacts, there's no FCA direct contact available to you. The administration of FCA benefits has been outsourced to Benefit Connect. Talking about Benefit Connect, they are the primary administrator, record keeper for benefit plans. They are the principal contact also in the event of a death. That's what you'll be noting. Via benefit accounts, as I mentioned, they're responsible for processing the requests for reimbursement of eligible healthcare expenses from both the healthcare retirement account and the retirement healthcare account. They are a group within Benefit Connect. Merrill Lynch, is the record keeper custodian for assets held under both the salary employees plan and the retirement health care plan. And you make the investment choice. They're managed by you. The survivor document itself has the phone numbers and website addresses for all of these contacts. In regard to beneficiaries, note the beneficiary designations are separate elections for each plan. Pensions, SESP, salary savings plan, RHCA, and optional group life insurance. That's a very important point. People think they've done one beneficiary designation and they're covered. You need to have them for each of those items, each of those contracts. All right, on the next slide, I'm going to go to our very first example. So retiree, number one, the retiree passes and there's a surviving spouse. And this is information then for the surviving spouse. First, you notify Benefit Connect, not FCA. If you notify them, they're going to ask you to provide a death certificate and they'll instruct you where to send it. If your pension was annuitized, then you can be notified Athene, Prudential, or Talcott, depending on who's handling your annuity, and they will require a death certificate, and Benefit Connect will advise you as to where to send it. So you contact Benefit Connect, they'll tell you where to send it. A surviving spouse will be issued a CID, Kaiser identification, if eligible. The Kaiser identification number should be received within 14 days. So for some, it'll have a S suffix in the front of it. If the surviving spouse is not eligible to receive their own CID, Benefit Connect should explain that and why not. If the retiree had optional insurance through FCA, Benefit Connect should notify the insurance carrier. The carrier will then notify the beneficiary, and that's generally the surviving spouse. If the retiree was under age 65, FCA healthcare coverage is removed, but if the surviving spouse is under age 65, they'll receive communication from Benefit Connect regarding continuing the healthcare coverage. Surviving spouse will generally receive 65% of the retiree's pension amount if the spousal option was selected by the retiree. And there is an exception to that. The exception is that under the 10-year certain provision with the 65% surviving spouse option, if the retiree did not live 10 years after retirement and therefore did not receive 120 guaranteed monthly payments, the balance of the unpaid guaranteed 120 months will be paid to surviving spouse. So under 10 years, you'd be getting 100%. Thereafter, then you're getting the 65%. And that's the surviving spouse benefit at that point. If the surviving spouse option was not in effect, then the pension payments will cease the month following death. But there again, if the retiree had elected the 10-year certain provision and the retiree died within 10 years of retirement, then the unpaid guaranteed payments will be made to the named beneficiaries. A lot of words, but again, it's all covered in the document. Continuing to the next slide, again, this is where a retiree passes and their surviving spouse. The surviving spouse, if eligible, will receive the retiree's healthcare retirement account amount up to $1,975 versus the spousal amount that we're getting of $1,750. Retirees over 65 were eligible and generally receiving annual amounts up to $1,975, while the eligible spouse, if over 65, was receiving $1,750. After the death of the retiree, the HRA will be set up in the name of the surviving spouse if that spouse is eligible. That's a key point. To be eligible, the spouse had to be married to the retiree at the time the retiree died, or excuse me, at the time they retired. If they weren't eligible before, they probably won't be eligible now. So that's a key point. You only get that if, in fact, you were married, the spouse was married at the time the retiree retired. Also, if eligible, the account will include any remaining balance in the retiree's account. Then, if eligible, beginning in January of the year after the retiree passes, the surviving spouse HRA lower amount ceases and generally changes to the higher retiree amount of $19.75. HRA amounts are available to the surviving spouse for reimbursement then of spouses and the deceased spouse's eligible health care expenses. However, there is only a 12-month period after the date of the retiree's death to submit the deceased retiree's eligible care expenses. So you have 12 months to round up any bills from the retiree that passed. I'm reciting this to you, and it can be hard to absorb just listening to me, but the document allows you to take your time to understand everything. If the retiree had funds in the salary employee savings plan, these funds are distributed to the named beneficiary, and generally the named beneficiary is a surviving spouse. These funds are held by Merrill Lynch. Benefit Connect will notify them. If there are funds in a retiree healthcare account, RHCA, those funds generally transfer to the surviving spouse. Or if they're going to a named beneficiary, they're paid out lump sum. So that's a key point. They transfer if the surviving spouse is eligible, or if they go to someone else, then they're lump sum. Funds are held by Merrill Lynch. Surviving spouse or the beneficiary should contact Merrill Lynch to manage these funds. To clarify, if the retiree spouse at the date of death is the spouse on file at Benefit Connect at the time of the retiree retired, the retirement health care funds will be transferred to the spouse, of course, to be able to use for health care expenses. However, if the retiree spouse at the date of death was not the spouse on file with Benefit Connect on the date of the retiree's retirement, then the retirement funds will be paid lump sum to the spouse. So the spouse will get the funds lump sum if they're not eligible. But if the retiree had designated a beneficiary other than the spouse, retiree funds will be paid to that beneficiary also as a lump sum. So only a qualified surviving spouse can receive a transfer of the funds. And that's important because these funds can be used pre-tax for healthcare expenses. And that's why it's important to read and understand this section of the guide. Next, the beneficiary selections are separate for the SESP and the RHCA, as I mentioned, so it's very important retiree keep their beneficiary designations up to date. Each account has to have named beneficiaries. If the retiree was participating in the company car lease program, this benefit will be terminated. The surviving spouse will be allowed a reasonable time to either purchase or turn in the lease vehicle. To purchase a car under the employee purchase program, surviving spouse will need their own spousal CID number, as I mentioned before, that'll be issued to them. Next, this is a situation 2, where the spouse of the retiree passes, and this is information that the retiree should know. Again, notify Benefit Connect, not FCA. You'll be asked to provide a death certificate and instruct where to send it. If you're annuitized, you notify Athene, Prudential, or Talcott. If it was annuitized, like I said, the respective insurance company will require a death certificate. I'm afraid in these examples I repeat a lot of stuff, but there are differences. If the spouse was under age 65, FCA healthcare coverage is removed. If the retiree is under age 65, FCA healthcare continues until they're age 65. If the spouse had optional life insurance, excuse me, if the spouse had optional life insurance, Benefit Connect should notify the insurance carrier. The carrier will then contact the retiree or the beneficiary as appropriate. And generally that's the surviving spouse. But that's an option where you've designated a beneficiary. If the spousal option was in effect for the retiree's pension, the retiree may cancel this option and receive a 5% pension increase. So a lot of retirees don't realize if they lose their spouse, unfortunately, their pension does increase 5%. The surviving spouse option cancellation and the increased benefit, if applicable, become effective the first day of the month following the month the death is properly reported to Benefit Connect. And Benefit Connect has received a copy of the death certificate and the surviving spouse option cancellation form. So it's a form that has to be sent in. The retiree should be certain to learn from Benefit Connect what needs to be submitted. Continue with number 2, the next slide. If the retiree remarries, they can re-elect the spousal option by following specific rules. A re-election of the surviving spouse option must be submitted to Benefit Connect within the first 17 months following the marriage or remarriage. Benefit Connect will provide an election form upon request. The effective date of the election, including any retroactive deductions, will be the date of the first anniversary of the marriage or remarriage. So point being that if you remarry, you can turn back on the spousal option. Retirees will continue to receive same healthcare retirement funds. The spousal funds will be discontinued, so there's no effect there. However, there's a 12-month period from the date of the spouse's death to submit the deceased spouse eligible healthcare expenses to VIA benefits. Same as applied in the other example. Funds in either the supplemental employee savings plan or the retiree's healthcare account, if applicable, are not affected. Again, very important at this time to update the beneficiary for all accounts. Okay, let's go to number 3, which is the death of the retiree with no living spouse. In the case there, the retiree was never married or was married at the time of retirement and their spouse predeceased them. So this is information really for the beneficiaries or the estate. Again, notify Benefit Connect, not FCA. You'll have to provide a death certificate. Same thing with the annuity. You have to provide if the pension was annuitized, you'll have to provide a death certificate and be instructed where to send it. If the retiree had optional life insurance, Benefit Connect should notify the insurance carrier, and the carrier should contact the beneficiaries of record. Beneficiaries are generally not entitled to any pension monies. So that's the end of the pension, although there's the exception. As I mentioned earlier, there's the 10-year certain provision where if the retiree did not live to receive 120 guaranteed payments, the balance of the unpaid guaranteed monthly pension will be paid to the beneficiaries or the estate. Next, continuing with number 3, the death of a retiree without a retired spouse. Benefit Connect does not notify the beneficiaries regarding any healthcare retirement account balances. Not sure why they don't do that. Beneficiaries would need to inquire with Benefit Connect or via benefits to determine if there are remaining funds. There's no automatic payout of remaining healthcare retirement funds, but you can submit claims for retiree expenses if there's a fund balance. To receive payments from a fund balance, you have to submit claims to VIA benefits within 12 months of the date of the death of the retiree for expenses that are eligible for reimbursement. If the funds were held in retirement supplemental employee savings plans, there should be named beneficiaries, and Benefit Connect will notify Merrill Lynch, the holder of the funds. If the retiree held funds in the retirement healthcare account, those funds are paid out lump sum to designated beneficiaries, and those are generally taxable. Benefit Connect should notify Merrill Lynch, the holder of the funds. They're not available to the beneficiaries or the estate for reimbursement through submission of deceased retirees' healthcare expenses. There's a strategy where, I'm not sure how to explain it, but try to get those claims in prior to the retiree passing or the surviving spouse passing. It's just a good practice to try to get that money out because you're getting it out at a pre-tax versus an after-tax situation. just mentioned that. On the next slide, we have finally example number 4. I hope you're still with me. You have the death of surviving spouse with the retiree having predeceased the spouse. So this is information, again, that the estate or beneficiary should know. Notify Benefit Connect, not FCA. Notify the insurance company regarding if you were annuitized. Again, they're both going to require a death certificate. If surviving spouse had optional life insurance in force, Benefit Connect will notify the insurance carrier. The carrier then notifies the beneficiaries of record. Beneficiaries are generally not entitled to any premium pension monies, but again, there's an exception with the 10-year rule. And if the retiree or surviving spouse, retiree did not receive 120 monthly payments, the balance is paid out. Continuing, going to the next slide, the Benefit Connect makes no notification regarding healthcare funds. There's no payout of remaining healthcare funds, HRA funds. However, beneficiaries can submit claims for the surviving spouse prior to death. Expenses for the surviving spouse's expenses prior to death. Beneficiaries need to inquire with Benefit Connect or via benefits as to whether there's a balance in the account. The way we're set up right now, where we're getting automatic payments of Medicare Part B, a lot of people do not have balances in these accounts anymore unless they previously had accumulated large balances. That's a good thing. It's getting paid automatically. To receive any payments from the balance in the HRA account, claims must be submitted within 12 months of the date of death. If the surviving spouse held funds in retirement healthcare, those funds are paid out lump sum. Retiree healthcare funds are held at Merrill Lynch. Benefit Connect should notify, and Merrill Lynch will not contact the beneficiaries or the estate. I'm sorry, will contact the beneficiary estate. This is so wordy, I'm sorry. RHCA funds are not available to the beneficiaries for reimbursement of the deceased spouse's healthcare expense. Again, the strategy would be to try to file those claims prior to the spouse's death. Just a final comment on the guide, and it's a tip I figured out the plan for myself. If you already know that you don't have some of these accounts mentioned here, or have depleted them, like an RHCA, you don't have any money there anymore, or you never had the healthcare coverage, never had the life insurance coverage, do your survivors a favor and write down or mark down on a copy of this document the accounts that don't exist for you. For example, you might have not had money in the supplemental savings plan, you never had money or depleted funds in the retirement healthcare account, you don't have optional life insurance. This will save your family from searching for funds or benefits that don't even exist, because the document's going to name all this stuff, and they may go through and be doing all this searching to find stuff that doesn't exist. So once you get a hard copy of the document, write on there what you don't have. Okay, now going to the next slide. It's a family guide overview. Okay, and I'll take just a few minutes on this. Going to the next slide. The family guide is intended as a checklist, okay, of general information to have available should it be needed in the event of death. I mean, a lot of people already do this, have this, but we thought it'd be good to put this guide out. The guide is not specific to FCA. It's applicable to everyone. So you can hand it off to your other family members, your kids, your friends. It may not be all-inclusive for your situation. It's not intended as legal advice. We tried to put together as much information as we could. The family members, though, should be aware of the information you have assembled and where to access it. On this next slide, there's some guide recommendations. So we're suggesting you provide a listing of personal data for yourself and family members. For example, phone numbers, addresses, Social Security information, Medicare information, those kinds of pieces of information. Also provide a listing of usernames and passwords. That's very important because in this IT age, we do a lot of stuff on the computer and have a lot of usernames, passwords, and people your heirs need to be able to assess them. List contact information for all possible contacts, doctors, lawyers, other agents and agencies. So whole listing of your contacts. Make available documents for Social Security, wills, or if you have a trust. And that's what we recommend in more detail in the guide. You'll see, I'm not reading you everything that's in this family guide, but you'll see a listing. The guide also lists recommended steps to be taken in the event of someone's death, including who should be contacted. Funeral home, different people, obviously, some are pretty obvious. Again, the guide is more specific than what is shown here. So I hope I haven't rattled this off too fast for you, but on the next slide, I just simply say we're open for questions.
So John, at the moment, no one's typed any in, but
Okay.
I'm ready to take them.
All right.
So I'm going to change and pop up the question. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in. We're getting a lot of thank yous.
Yeah,
So
you may have
very
more
welcome out
questions.
there.
I think the viewers may have more questions once they've had a chance to go through the guide too. And I'm really happy that we've decided, the NCRO has decided to mail this out again, because some folks didn't hang on to it, some folks lost it, or some folks can always use an extra copy, especially for family members. So I think it's very worthwhile to have on hand.
There's a question here of, will the PowerPoint be accessible on the NCRO website? And my plan is to put it out there along with the recording.
Well, the PowerPoint isn't as good as the document. The document's on the website. The PowerPoint is only as good as me capturing certain bullets, but both will be there. I would suggest, though, either if you don't want to read it, you could bear with listening to me again. You can watch the video, or again, get the document. It's even more detailed than I was afraid of being too wordy. There's even a little bit more detail in the actual document.
It's very extensive, and I think you'll be pleased with when you try and use it. Next, let's see, I gotta click here. Here we go. Yeah, I'll fix. So John, I wasn't at the board meeting. Do you know when
I would say within another week or so. I want to go back and make sure it's refreshed. And going through and preparing this presentation, I wiggled some words and made some clarifications. And but that being said, we've got approval, and I'm guessing in the next week or two we'll have it out at the latest. Yeah. Again, okay. It's available online. It's just that I think it's a little bit tedious to print. So if someone really had to access it, it's there. It's been there. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm gonna just bring up. Sorry for all the Michigan fans. I'm a Spartan.
I actually had occasion. I don't remember why. I Googled. I was trying to find out something about the CID numbers, and I Googled FCA survival guide on Google, and my document came up. I thought, wow. So it's out there. It's out there even if you Google it.
We're into the 21st century here now. So this is the NCRO website, ncro.org. And right. If you go to the health insurance and click on the first tab there on Medicare and just scroll down, you'll see guide for salary retirees and guide for families on here in the right column.
Right.
So you can just click on that and it brings up the PDF, which is 13 pages long.
Yeah, it's a document. That's what's going to get mailed out. Yeah.
And this will be mailed to you. Are we mailing both documents, John, or just the
Both? Yeah,
both of them? Okay.
Yeah.
So the other one that's there is the guide for families here.
Yeah,
that's the survivor's guide that John talked about, and that's a 4-page document. So if you want to get to them, they are out there and available.
Yeah, like I said, I Googled it and got it. I was looking up for something else and I Googled it. Apparently the NCRO has it available on Google, so that's a good thing. Either way.
Yeah, we've got a very neat young lady that does our website, and she's pretty quick to get stuff out there and get it, kind of make it known, if you would. Oops, I'm trying to get the next question up. I apologize. So I'm not surprised that it's out there on the web when you go looking for something. I got a little problem here, so I'm just gonna clean up house and then I'll put this up. So here's a question for you, John. Are the beneficiaries listed with Benefit Connect accepted by Merrill Lynch?
Well, again, you've got to make sure on each plan you hold, supplemental savings plan, retirement healthcare account, not the HRA, but optional life insurance, that the beneficiaries are there. So I would go to Merrill Lynch and verify that. You know, the big thing that happens is your spouse dies, passes, and you don't change beneficiaries, or you get a divorce. You know,
Very good point.
It can be important, very important, to make sure those beneficiaries are current, and they are separate. But I think, yeah, you can go to Merrill Lynch, you can go to Benefit Connect, and they'll direct you. I think you can do it online if you're proficient, but I would not be afraid to call them. I just got a note here that it's probably gonna be more like 3 or 4 weeks before we get that published, because we're publishing some other stuff right now. So where I promised a week or two, maybe I overpromised, but we'll get it out. We'll get it out there shortly, you know, within a month. The mail I'm talking about.
Yeah. I got another question here, which I'm not sure which one it is, but when is the next in-person meeting in Southeastern Michigan? I think you might be talking about the next breakfast meeting, and that's going to be in May. Ooh, and you're going to ask me the date. You want to know the date? But oh, wait a minute. I'll cheat. I'm going to go to the website here. Let's see if we're keeping stuff up to date. Here's the events tab. There's the survivor's guide. Yeah, here we go. May 15th. It's a Wednesday. It'll be at the San Marino Club, and we're still waiting on the speaker. I think we know who it's going to be, but that still needs to be confirmed. So that'll just keep an eye out on the events page here on the website, and it'll keep you up to date. And then I also think the insurance committee is planning on their annual discussion on Social Security, Medicare, and benefits. That's in September. Have you guys picked a date yet, John?
I don't know if they've got a date yet.
Okay.
I think they have not. But it'll be like middle of September. We try to get it in there.
We'll get an announcement out that, and this time that one's going to be a webinar.
Yes,
we're going to
that'll
go
be
through
a
it.
webinar.
We actually had more volunteers at the last live event than we had members. So if somebody needs some help or has some questions, we'll make sure that we get you connected up with somebody. At the moment, that's all the questions I have. And we still have 64 people on on the webinar. So anything you'd like to say in parting, John?
No, I just feel the document is very important, and we did this just for awareness, really make sure you're aware that it's available to you and how important it is to have it, because as you saw from the detail, it can be very confusing for people, especially if you're not the retiree. The spouse is struggling, and it's one less thing that the family should have to worry about is what do I do with Kaiser or FCA? How do I handle that interface? And this does answer all those questions.
Well, thank you, everyone. And we really appreciate your attendance and hope you enjoyed the presentation today. Also, we will be, if Dale gets his backside in gear, I'll have the video posted out on our YouTube channel, which is, if you get on YouTube, it's THENCRO, all one big word. That's our channel. There's also links on the website to it, but you can go there and see a copy of today's presentation in video. And with that, oops, wait a minute. Haha. Just want to say thank you. Yep. Phone numbers to contact in case of more questions.
Go ahead.
I'll leave that one up to you, John.
Well, I don't have it in front of me, but the document has the phone numbers for the Benefit Connect, Merrill Lynch, all those folks. As far as the contact with the NCRO, that would be through the insurance committee, and that's on the website. I don't have that phone number. Well, we don't use a phone number. We usually use email. So you email the insurance committee with your question.
I think it's
insurance.com, I think.
Yeah.
Insurance.
INS.com. I think it's just one M.
I think it's in the document too.
Yeah, it's in the document. And by the way, I'll fall back to the blessed website. If you just click on any of these tabs, oops, sure, make me a liar. Scroll down here and it says if you have questions, where is it? Here it is. If you have any questions, email at inscom@ncro.org. So it's right there in the tab. And I guess my final pitch is if anybody would like to help out with the aging subcommittee, we're looking for some volunteers. So please feel free to contact us, and we'd love to have you. So with that, I want to thank John for an excellent presentation and wish everyone a safe and happy day. Enjoy yourselves and be careful out there. It's beautiful, at least in Michigan, it's beautiful. Enjoy the sunshine. With that,
thank you, Dale. Thank you, Dale. Thank you for
bye
putting
for
this
now,
on.
and we're signing off.
All right.